Hey guys, what is going on? Anthony here with Pistons Talk. Hope you guys are having a great day so far. In today's video, wanted to react to this athletic article written by James Edwards III, who's been on this podcast several times, friend of the show, good guy to just talk basketball with, honestly. He had a piece with some athletic coworkers, and it's about a couple of guys you guys have been talking about this offseason. Lauri Markkanen, Brandon Ingram. And what's the possibility of the Pistons landing a player like that? And there are also some other sneaky, maybe under the radar trades in this article as well. We'll be reacting to those too. Before we do jump into today's video, wanted to give you guys a chance to join our Detroit Pistons group chat. Now, we have a Detroit Pistons group chat that is on the Bunches Sports app. Currently, we have close to 500 people in that group chat. Right now, what they're talking about is free agency. Yesterday, they were talking about president of basketball operations. So if you do want to join that group chat, I will leave a link down in the description. You can click that link, sign up for it, and talk some basketball with all of us. Talk some just Pistons basketball. The chat's free to join. You don't have to put any credit card information, nothing. Absolutely free. I just thought, hey, why not build the Detroit Pistons community for all of you guys that watch these videos? And maybe you're just a Piston fan and you just you don't get to talk Pistons basketball with other people. That's what that group is for. It's just a huge community of Detroit Pistons fans. But let's get into this video. So the first trade in this article is with the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, it's Brandon Ingram. And I think a lot of you guys are kind of 50-50. I see some people that it's like, hey, like Brandon Ingram's on a 1 year left of his contract. The Pelicans, cap space isn't looking the best. They're going to have to make a decision with some of these wings. I mean, they have guys like Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Najee Marshall. Is Ingram maybe a possibility? So in this trade, as you guys can see, it would be Brandon Ingram and their first round pick this year, 21st overall, in exchange for the Pistons center Jalen Duren and our draft pick. Now, obviously, we do not know which pick the Pistons are going to be getting in the draft yet. We still have to wait for the draft lottery, which is, I believe, on Mother's Day. So we're going to have to see if the Pistons are picking anywhere from the first pick to the fifth pick. Let's just hope it's not the fifth pick 3 years in a row. That would just be a kick in the balls. It really would. But James kind of goes into his thinking of why trading Jalen Duren would make sense for the Pelicans. Now, obviously, we'll just kind of skim this article. So the Pistons address their need for another stars player who is entering his prime. Ingram, 26, checks several boxes for Detroit. I 100% agree with James. If the Pistons were to trade for Brandon Ingram, he'd arguably be their second best player. He just would, behind Cade Cunningham. And it gives Cade Cunningham another option to pass to in a starting lineup with Cade Cunningham and Brandon Ingram. James also goes on to say why he would involve Jalen Duren in this trade, and this is what he had to say. Duren 20 in this trade would put the Pistons decision makers a bit on edge. He's young and has great upside, but if they turn around this summer and sign someone like Nick Claxton or Isaiah Hartenstein in free agency, Detroit will upgrade itself immediately at the center position. From an outside perspective, the Pelicans could use a center, so that is why Duren is included in this deal, opposed to someone like Jaden Ivey. Now, with James kind of talking about like Duren, right? About how the Pelicans do need a center. We saw reports that they were interested in Isaiah Stewart, and obviously they like Jonas Valanciunas, but I think there's a world where he doesn't resign there. I think there's a world where he tries to get one more bag before he eventually does retire, and I don't think New Orleans has that cap space to offer him of what he probably wants. Now, obviously with Duren right now, 20 years old, tons of upside, the potential, the ceiling, it's through the roof. Pistons fans understand that. I'm going to use this analogy, and if you guys watch Family Guy, you know what this analogy is. Right now, to me, Jalen Duren is the mystery box. You can either have the mystery box or the boat. If you guys ever watch Family Guy, you know what that is. Jalen Duren is a mystery box to me because he could develop into this top 5 rim running, rim protection center, right? Which I think a lot of Pistons fans think that he could possibly turn into. He's only 20. Maybe by, 24, 25, he is that. But there's also another reality where maybe he doesn't develop into that. Maybe he's just a rim runner and he's a average to an above average rim protector. We're going to have to wait and see. He's 20 years old. So there is some risk with this trade if you are a Pistons fan, because Ingram's only on I think a year left in his contract. So you'd have to sign him to obviously a max contract or just giving him an extension when the time comes. Now, what's interesting about this article is James asked the opposing team's beat writer at The Athletic to react to this trade and what they think of it. So the Pelicans beat writer for The Athletic had this to say. As much as the addition of Duren would provide some long-term answers at the center that the Pelicans need, this doesn't feel like the type of return New Orleans would want for a guy of Ingram's caliber. And I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to rip off the whole article. I'll just kind of give you my 2 cents on it. I think where the Pelicans are at in terms of roster building and roster construction, this makes sense. Okay, not to say that Jalen Duren is not a valuable trade asset. He is. The Pelicans just got bounced out of the first round. They also are a team that is in the top 10 of the most expensive salaries, cap space wise, in the NBA. Taking on a Jalen Duren and getting a top 5 pick to them probably wouldn't really be something that they want to entertain. They want a name. They need a grown up. They need a win now piece, like a Devin Booker, a Bradley Beal, if you will. I think is something they may try to explore possibly. But I would say I think Duren in a top 5 pick maybe could get it done with another team. You never really know. I think if you were to offer Duren in another top 5 pick, you would get a rotational NBA piece. But it's interesting that the Pelicans beat writer over at The Athletic doesn't feel like this is a trade that the Pelicans would even entertain. But hey, man, you never know. In this next trade, it's with the Toronto Raptors. And you guys could probably see it on the screen. It's Bruce Brown, Yoka Pertl, and Indiana's 2024 first-round pick for Jalen Duren and Evan Fournier. Now, obviously, the first-round pick is from Indiana. That's part of the Pascal Siakam trade, so you'd be getting Indiana's first. So it's not going to be a lottery first-round pick. Probably be like in the 20s. You're getting Yoka Pertl. And you're getting Bruce Brown, who used to play for the Detroit Pistons. I'm just looking at this on the surface. I think, yes, Yoka Pertl can protect the rim. Yes, he can catch, some lobs, finish around the rim. I think this would be a gamble involving Duren. I'd like to think you could get a little bit more, but maybe I'm overvaluing him as a Piston fan. And Evan Fournier, again, this would probably, it says right here, in this proposal, Detroit would have to pick up a team option on Fournier. His team option's like $18 million. Under the assumption they do this. Obviously, the salaries work out. You get a first, but I'm not really feeling this trade personally. I'm just going to be completely 100% honest with you guys. I think this is kind of like a meh trade. It doesn't really move the needle for me. I'd rather keep Duren, and God forbid, I hope they don't pick up Evan Fournier's option. I really don't. I know this is completely off topic, but every time he was out there after the trade deadline, I would just hold my breath because I knew he was just going to shoot it and not pass it. He just looked to shoot the ball, and obviously some of them went in, but it's just why do I have to watch this? Just give him DMPs. It's a lost season, but I just hope Evan Fournier is not on the Pistons next year. God forbid. I really hope he's not. I'm not even gonna get into the like the Raptors rationale or the James's rationale of why they would do this trade because I just think it's kind of like I don't like it. That's all I'll say. I don't like the trade. I think it's just kind of like meh. Like it doesn't really do anything for you, honestly. So the next trade, mock trade, I should say, in this athletic article is with the Jazz. It's for Lauri Markkanen. And this is the trade package that James came up with. It's Lauri Markkanen in exchange for Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, and a 2024 first round pick in this upcoming draft. Now, his reasoning behind it is that Markkanen would solve a lot of problems next season and beyond for the Pistons as a 7-foot floor spacing big who's only 26 years old. Outside of a realistic options like a good to great wing, I'm not sure anyone would be a better fit for Detroit than Markkanen given his skill set, size, and age. I 100% agree there with James. I think if you look at Lauri Markkanen and you look at the type of team that the Detroit Pistons have, having a stretch four like Markkanen would check a lot of boxes for Detroit. Now, obviously, you're giving up Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, and this year's first in this deal. I want to see what Tony Jones from the Utah Jazz, their beat reporter over at The Athletic, has to say about a deal like this. And he said, so if there was an interest meter scale from 1 to 100, this would hardly register a 1 to the Utah Jazz. Good Lord, Tony. Tony, you're breaking my heart, bud. He says the lone pick in this deal comes from a draft where there isn't a single player that projects to be as good as Markkanen. Shit. Man, Tony doesn't really like the Pistons. Damn. I'm kidding. I'm sure he doesn't hate the Pistons. He said the two players in this deal are non-shooters and ill fits for Will Hardy's offense. I love Jalen Duren because we played at the same high school in Philadelphia. Obviously not at the same time. That's actually kind of funny. He's a lob threat offensively who doesn't handle or shoot the ball with range, and we just saw Hardy this season limit the time of Walker Kessler for this reason. But these are the reasons this specific trade does not work for the Jazz. So I can kind of understand Tony's rationale for this trade with the Jazz. If you look at the Jazz, they have rim protectors like Walker Kessler, who I think as of right now, he's actually a better rim protector than Jalen Duren. And maybe Jalen Duren can kind of, catch up to a Walker Kessler in terms of blocking shots and rim protection. Jaden Ivey, yes, he has potential. Yes, he has, speed, athleticism, all that, great stuff that guards need. But to Tony's point, he's not a consistent shooter yet. He's very inconsistent. When he's hot, he's hot. When he's not, he's not. I don't think, and this has nothing to do with Jaden Ivey or Jalen Duren, I don't think the Pistons have the assets the Jazz want. I think the Jazz want multiple picks, and I think they want shooting around their players. And I just don't think that's something that the Pistons currently have. I mean, the Jazz traded us Simone Fontecchio, who's a phenomenal shooter. But they want more shooting out of the center position and the guards position. And both of those guys aren't shooters. Jalen Duren is not known as a three-point or a mid-range shooter. He's just not. Jaden Ivey, as of right now, is more of a slasher than a consistent mid-range or three-point shooter. Obviously, both of those guys can get better in that department, but I could see why Tony Jones over at The Athletic for the Jazz doesn't think that this is a realistic trade. And I think that's something that a lot of Pistons fans felt like Markkanen was gettable. I think the only way you really entertain Markkanen is if you throw Cade in a trade, and I don't think you're doing that. You're not going to trade Cade Cunningham for Lauri Markkanen. That would just be foolish. But hey, that's just my opinion with it. Let me know what you guys think of these trade proposals in this article, what you think of opposing beat reporters from the Pelicans and the Jazz think about Ingram and Markkanen as possibilities. I apologize for not even getting into the Toronto trade, but I don't want to say I hated it, but it's just like it didn't really move me. It's just like I'm good on Bruce Brown. I'm good on Yoko Pertl. Like I'd rather just keep Duren in that instance. And God forbid if they do decide to pick up Fournier's option, like I'm good. Like don't pick up Fournier's option, please. I'll talk to you guys down below in the comment section. Like always, again, if you do want to join our Detroit Pistons group chat on Bunches, the link will be down in the description below. Again, 100% free to join. But I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.